Elgin, a quiet town northeast of Columbia, boasting a population of just over 1,300. Generally, the town's 7-man police force deals with property crimes, assaults, and the occasional stolen car. But in the summer of 2012, the spotlight was put on the town as the Midlands became familiar with two names: Gabby Swainson, a 15-year-old girl who disappeared from her northeast Columbia home, and Freddie Grant, the Elgin man accused of kidnapping her.
But the Swainson case wasn't the first time that police investigators felt there was a connection between Freddie Grant and the disappearance of a young woman.
In 2008, Adriana Laster, a 28-year-old mother from Florida, met and moved to Elgin with Freddie Grant in his Kelly Street home. It was a relationship that created concern for her mother, Dorothy Forston, who would hear of abuse at the hands of Freddie Grant.
I had a niece in the car with them, and she said to me, he hit her so hard, he knocked her out.
During the relationship, police were called several times to Kelly Street for assault complaints and other disturbances. But Chief Harold Brown said there was an increase in calls in the time prior to Laster's disappearance.
I think some of the first calls we got, it was basically an argument and such, and then it got to where there was signs of violence, and we did finally get enough to charge him. We actually charged him twice.
It wasn't only the police department that had first-hand knowledge of the violence.
We woke up to her screaming. And we got up and went to the front door, and she came running and screaming help, and she was all bloody and stuff where he'd been beating her. And she called the police, and I mean, I know he used to beat her and stuff, and it just, I don't know, she just.
And according to neighbors, the abuse continued to escalate.
And he come over here, he come over here to get what belonged to him, and he dragged out the door.
He just drug her out the door?
The back door right there, that's where he had at. And that's where she stabbed him at.
In late 2011, Adriana wanted to return to Florida. She asked her mother to wire her money for a bus ticket. But according to Forston, Adriana called her to tell her the money had disappeared.
The next morning she called me crying. My money's gone. I said, well, I just wired it to you. You said you had it. Yeah, but Freddie took it. He's definitely going to kill me. We never heard another word from her.
An investigation into Adriana's disappearance began in 2012.
I actually contacted news sources in Homestead, Florida, asked them to run it on Crime Stoppers if anybody had seen her. We talked to Mr. Grant. He said he didn't know where she was. She had left him. As far as he knew, she went back to Florida.
Chief Brown has been vocal about who he thinks might be involved with her disappearance.
We have a lot of hearsay about abuse that we didn't know about, pretty serious abuse. And it seems like all these are true, we just don't have enough to actually make a charge.
And he's not alone in his suspicions.
I'm positive he had something to do with it. To prove it, I can't. But I'm positive he had something to do with it. That's what I'm living with now.
Do I think he did something to him? Yeah. Yeah, I do. But as far as knowing it for a fact and proving it,
Sure.
No.
Freddie Grant's involvement, if he had any at all, isn't known. He has remained tight-lipped since becoming a suspect in the Swainson disappearance. What is known is that a 28-year-old woman is missing, and her family is hoping somewhere there's someone who can help them.
Somebody knows something. They've heard something. They've seen something.
That's the last home that's known to neighbors, friends, and even police investigators of Adriana Laster. What happened to her after March of 2012 is still unknown. Should you have any information, please contact Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIME-SC. In Elgin, Tyler Ryan, Watch Fox News.